Cheap supercars you can afford. Welcome back to our YouTube channel. Another adventure has finally arrived. For this vlog, we will be talking about the cheap supercars you can afford. Do you have everything you need? Let's start. Audi R8, the most well-known supercar purely by being Iron Man's ride of choice, and for good reason. The Audi R8 is based on the same chassis as the Lamborghini Gallardo, which may or may not be on the list later on. The needless and to say that the R8 has cemented itself as a bona fide supercar. Plus, the Audi easily outshines most other cars in the looks department, with its gorgeous curves and iconic carbon side blades, but the beauty does not stop there. The manual version sport one of the best gated shifters ever in the modern car. It's an ode to the bygone era where speed and emotion dictated the best. German rockets to 60 miles an hour in less than through the quarter mile in 11.4 seconds. That's as fast as this car. A 2018 AMG GT-R, which is a modern car with F1 technology built into it. So the V10 is definitely one of that you want to get, especially if you want to just shake the brake. But here at Ideal, we like well-rounded cars, and there's this V8 variant that I find to be a more balanced driving experience. Hear me out here, and this V10 is just feels like the way more like a driver's car. Plus, there's no sound that's quite like a straight pipe. German V8 rip into redline. Whichever engine you choose, you're gonna be a winner. Because all our edge came with all-wheel drive, and their power delivery was rear wheel bias, meaning you could slide it and out and drift sideways all day long. Porsche 911 Turbo. From one German manufacturer to another, although this time the recipe will include forced induction. The 911 Turbo is just not a supercar, and you'd be right. Heck, my dentist drives, and the boring old dentists don't drive supercars. But hold your horses and listen to how many 997 Turbos has. A stable 480 of them rocket this car from 0 to 60 in 3.5 seconds. Now, I don't know about you, but that is scorching fast. Supercars cost the way more money, like this Ferrari F40. Have a hell of a time keeping up at that, because the legendary Metzger motor that's hanging out there is the 997 Turbo is quite the masterpiece. In fact, it's the engine that powered the legendary thing. I tried to true on the racetrack, and it was engineered to be bulletproof from the factory. And remember, this thing doesn't have one of the two snails bolted in the engine, and that means that one thing and only one thing only is more power. Let's go. As we result, there's a ton of 997 Turbo driving around, which powered bump up to doesn't need too much engine work. Now we can all call this thing a supercar. Yeah, I thought so. Oh, and what's that you want more power and you got it? There are quite a few. Yeah, these Metzger motors can handle it, and these things are some of the fastest cars on the planet and will rip for a dig because they're high-tech all-wheel drive. Well, put the power down seamlessly. The 997 Turbo is pushing this much power. Our usually record cars use for runway racing, meaning they are so fast that they need an airport to get up to speed. And remember, these are 911s, and so that they are all not about straight line speeds. You are also piloting one of the greatest handling chassis ever designed. Porsche knew exactly what they were doing when they were putting this car together, and it shows. I put my money where my mouth is, because I was so impressed that I thought a 997, and right now is the best time to buy one yourself, because the turbo examples dipping into 30s, this 911 punches way above its weight in both the looks and power department. And if you snag one of these, you could be embarrassing cars that cost six figures into the German missile that cost about the same as the hybrid Toyota Camry. So Toyota Camry or 911 Turbo? Tough choice. Ferrari 355. When it was the first release in the late 90s, it was one of the most beautiful cars Ferrari had ever made. And I think I'm speaking for pretty much everyone here. I love these things. It's a perfect mix of the wedge-shaped cars that Ferrari used to make, blended perfectly with the gentle curves that we're come to know with the more modern. The reason is the 355 is able to produce such a sonorous symphony is due to its radical 5 valves per cylinder design, which allowed it to breathe a lot more than its predecessors. It's no wonder it shook the supercar world when it was first released, and 375 horsepower 3.4-liter V8 helped scoot this bad boy to 60 miles an hour in 4.6 seconds. In the manual trim, and if you opt for the F1, which is automatic, it takes the 0.1 second more. But with 4.6 seconds, that's lower than the 997 turbo and the R8 that we're already talked about. How is it that a supercar? Well, remember guys, this is a freaking Ferrari, and it may be the fastest 0 to 60 time, but tricks all of us in the box into the looks and sound departments. And did I mention the sounds? Yes, that is intoxicating, but a world of caution. On the 355S, they're a bit expensive to maintain. These older Ferraris need the entire engine out to do maintenance like timing belts, and the bills can add up frequently, but it doesn't scare you. Then say go for it. Example of the 355S can be had for pretty cheap, starting around $5,000 for this nice yellow one. And yes, that isn't exactly cheap, but that is cheap for a Ferrari that looks like this. Nissan GT-R. And now it's time to hop over to Japan because it's time for the honorable mention. Yup, this cheap supercar hails from the land of rising sun. The legendary Nissan GT-R. When the older Nissan R32 GT-R was released, it dominated racing series in both Japan and Australia, so badly that the organizers had to try to keep other racers from leaving. Yeah, if you were to look up legend in the dictionary, our 32 GT-R would be next to it, and this is around the time when the GT-R coined the name Godzilla because it was simply unstoppable. The next couple of insertions was, and the GT-R spanked many other racing series in similar fashion. And when the R35 Nissan GT-R was released, the world was waiting for the successor to the infamous Godzilla. Fanboy did the Nissan ever delivered. The R35 GT-R came out of the late 2000s and was equipped with 480 horsepower coming from the twin turbocharged V6 mounted in the front of the car, and later interactions of the GT-R packed even more punch with a beautiful Nismo version, putting out over make it faster than the McLaren 600 LP and the Porsche 911 GT3 around the Nürburgring, which we all know is the world's benchmarks for performance cars. And here's the best part. Though since the GT-R is a Japanese car, reliability is through the roof, so you can drive the hell out of it and not have to do too much in the maintenance with the GT-R. And you can have your cake and eat too. Plus, there are plenty of GT-R for sale since they've been sailing for over a decade, almost a little too long for this current generation. And if you find an early example, you can find them in our century. But a quick question, do you think that our 35 is or isn't a superior? Lamborghini Gallardo lives up to its name with a vicious V10 making around 500 horsepower, enough to fire this car for 0 to 60 in 4.2 seconds and run the quarter mile in 12.4 seconds. The Italians take their performance seriously. Wow, now this is the set of performance benchmarks. When it first came out of the world, took notice, this was best the Lamborghini of all time, selling around 14,000 units, and that is a lot of guy. Our dose, how did the Lamborghini manage of that? Well, you see, as I mentioned earlier, the Gallardos share the same chassis as the Audi R8, bringing the cost down to it. Also shares a few other components such as the engine, which is found in the V10 Audi R8, further bringing the cost down. Essentially, you could call it from the R8 Italian twin, except this one is much better looking. Much like the Ferrari 355, the Lamborghini is simple yet gorgeous gorgeous lines stand out in traffic, and a timeless design like this never go out of style. In fact, the Gallardo was the precursor of the current Lamborghini Huracan, which the entire internet knows and loves. You know the direction seriously. The Huracan is a brilliant car, but that's another topic for another video. And since there were 14,000 guys Arnos built, there's quite a few ones to choose from. The first year models coming from in at under $60,000. If you look hard enough now, every card that I showed you a price for today had a clean title, unlike the girl you might have riding shotgun with you. And if you ended up buying one of these, so which one is your favorite? You like the Audi R8 because it has a big screen fame, the Ferrari for its exotic noises it makes us, or the Lambo because, well, it's a Lambo. Let us know in the comments down below. While you're doing it, smash the like button, turn the notification bell, and subscribe to our channels for more videos like this. Thank you for watching.